Let me close my door real quick. 1 second. Sorry.
All right, well, we're already recording, so you close your door and I'll get things kicked off here. Everybody, welcome to another episode of Kids in the Dugout. We start this show and it is opening baseball. Willis is in the Hall of Fame. Rebel Hoops, they drop a couple of games they probably at least had a chance to win, right, between the Auburn and South Carolina games, but not killers by any stretch. We'll catch y'all up on all of that. Before we get started, though, we'll tell you, just like the beginning of every show, about Bet Rhythm, the absolute best betting app out there to build your own models. Here, I think it was this past weekend, they launched another new setting to their app to where when you build NBA models or let AI build a model for you, it also goes into player props. You get your whole list of player props for that night for that slate of games. Points, assists, rebound totals, or just points, assists, points, over under stuff like that with players, blocks, rebounds, all that kind of stuff. So when you NBA model and use that, go over to the player props page and you will see player prop bets for that night as well. Apparently, they've had pretty good success with it. I've been following along here this past weekend since it's launched, and they've really done well with those. So that's just one more thing you can go over and check out. When you download the Bet Rhythm app, that's RITHMM in the App Store. Go ahead and sign up. You'll get 14 days free to try out the NBA. Now, that's kind of what's going on. Still got college basketball as well, but also the player props that go along with the NBA. So y'all give that a shot. I'm sure it's a lot of fun. So, but welcome back. It's been a while, guys. Not y'all's fault. Totally mine. People that listened to the Austin Simmons interview obviously heard that I had some audio issues. And kind enough to try to hop on here and help me figure them out at some point, Hitch over the phone. And I'm completely inept when it comes to anything technology. So I was a total zero when it comes to helping these things out. Couldn't get back up and going. We were going to record Friday. I still couldn't get it right. Luckily, my brother is in tech, and I got him to make his one visit for the month over here this weekend to get me back up and running. So hopefully we won't run into this again. But Chad, Hitch, been a while, but good seeing y'all again.
Yeah, good seeing you too, man. Glad you got your computer issues figured out. I know that that was a
I'm glad
price.
you got power back. You were
Yeah.
without power for a while.
Yeah, we had a windstorm. About 12 hours of 50-mile-per-hour gusts. I was out for about 72 hours last week.
Yeah, looks like Hitch is going through the same thing now.
He's pretty upset. He was pretty bummed that I was without power apparently, and we've lost him. So hope he's doing okay.
Yeah, maybe so, maybe not. One way or another, we'll find out either in the middle of this show or after, one of the two. So, I guess we'll go ahead and get started without him. Nobody cares about Hitch anyway or what he has to say. So, again, I wanted to start this show out just because he, in my opinion, is probably the greatest Ole Miss player of all time. Patrick Willis obviously had an incredible career at Ole Miss, led the SEC in tackles two times in his career, if I've got that right. But just an unbelievable player. I've never seen anybody play the linebacker position like him, how fast and strong and technically sound he was. Everybody always goes back to that Justin Vincent tackle, right, against LSU. And then he goes on to the NFL. Our Dolphins really muck it up there in the first round, Chad. We end up taking.
Well, Ted Ginn was great.
Well, no, that's debatable. He ran fast.
He did.
He did that.
Yeah, I think he had. He played well at Ohio State. Didn't play well in Miami, but
not real good in Miami. So yeah, we end up passing him up. That caused me to have a big gash right here across the knuckle of my thumb from where I punched the table when they announced that one. And then just decided to load up the car and head up to Oxford, go watch some baseball to kind of calm down that day. But obviously the 49ers picked him. He goes on 7 Pro Bowls. Was it 5 All-Pros, something like that?
He is
incredible.
If you're familiar with Pro Football Focus, he is the highest rated linebacker in PFF history.
Really? I didn't know that.
Patrick Willis. Yeah.
Well, he absolutely deserved it. He's like I said, it didn't matter if he was going back into coverage, rushing the passer, or just playing the run. His instincts were so good. That's why you just kind of put him out there, and he called a play for the other 10 guys, and Patrick Willis was just Patrick Willis. And that was better than anybody else on that side of the ball every time he was on the field. So big congratulations to Patrick. It's been a long time coming, much deserved. Like I said, I think he's the best player in Ole Miss history. For my money, he's the greatest linebacker of all time. At any level, nobody's ever played it like him. So maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I love Patrick Willis. Congratulations to him. Was there ever anything that really stuck out with Patrick Willis with you, Chad, just watching him all these years?
Well, considering the teams he played on in Oxford, how hard he continued to play, and he was always positive, that says a lot about him as a person, which I don't think that's talked about enough, how good of a dude he was. He's one of the better individuals that you're going to meet, regardless of career or what their past job was. And I hope that he is one of the next Rebels that have their numbers retired. I think no one's been more deserving of that accolade or that accomplishment than Patrick Willis.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to get the number 49 hanging up there with 10 and 38 and 18 and those kind of numbers. And there's going to be another one up there before too long as well. 78's going to have to go up there by the time Laramie gets done playing, because he's kind of been the Patrick Willis at the left tackle position. He was obviously an All-American at Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
He was drafted high in the NFL, and he's been dominating ever since he got there. So he's going to go down as a Hall of Famer, another Rebel great. But yeah, I totally agree with you though. We got to get 49 up in the ring up there and not let anybody else put that number on. So I think that day's probably coming.
I would think so.
Yeah, so that'll be a lot of fun when he makes it back to Oxford and that number goes up for good. So, all right, we'll shift gears a little bit, move on to basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Since we last talked, we had a game in the Pavilion against Auburn. Rebels fought like hell, right? That first half really played well, but you kind of had that feeling at halftime when you're only up 9. It's like, man, we should be up 15-16 at this point.
Yeah.
And the second half happened, and you kind of found out why. Auburn came out and just absolutely bullied us from the jump there in the second half, comes back and ends up beating us. Then we go on the road to South Carolina, a team that's played really, really well this year, above expectations, most would say. And, it's another one that's a tale of two halves in a completely different way. The first half, we're down 12 at halftime. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then come out and end up getting worse. We don't even play good to coming out of the locker room, start that second half, get down by 17, and, just really battled their asses off to get that thing back to 3 points with, Lord, I think like 7 or 8 minutes left. We got it down to 3 points. It was pretty, there was a good amount of time there. Beard ended up making some rotation adjustments. Juju went to the bench. Brakefield went to the bench. And Alan Flanagan and Morrell just absolutely carried us there in the second half, right? And I know Sharp, there's, is one reason Hitch is wanting to be on here, just talking about Mary and Sharp there at the end on that dunk. But I thought he played really well, considering,
he did.
It's kind of like I told my brother, hell, I may have put it in the group text with all of us. You take the 2 plays away of the dunk that he didn't finish because he got fouled. It was absolutely a foul where he took his left arm out when he went up for it. I just think you do have to go up stronger and finish it no matter what. That, and then that little 8-foot jump shot he decided to take from the side. He should never take any jump shots no matter what. So take those 2 plays out. I thought he played pretty well. But overall, the Rebels aren't really in that much danger of missing the tournament here. I mean, those are 2 games that you weren't favored in to begin with, right?
No. And even they're probably not going to be favored tomorrow night in Lexington or Tuesday night, depending on when you're listening to this. But while, the odds are, Vegas is probably going to think they'll miss that the Rebels are going to lose tomorrow night. It would be a good game to win, even though, Kentucky does not lose very much in Rupp Arena, even though they lost to Gonzaga.
They've actually lost 3 straight for the first time in program history.
First time ever.
Don't think that'll motivate them, do you?
No, and I'm afraid that is going to be one of the things that goes against us tomorrow. I can't fathom Kentucky losing again. But let's pretend. Let's look ahead and say that, hey, it's going to be a tough game. Anyway, let's say the Rebels drop it. You've got a must-win on the 17th. You've got a Missouri team that has not won yet in conference. If they come into Oxford,
close.
Yeah, and And that I think, and then we have to go to Columbia later, March 2nd. You can't lose either one of those games. That's where you start getting on the cusp of the bubble at that point, because that's going to be a bad loss.
Yeah. Well, it's also going to hurt you even playing them because of how bad their metrics are.
Correct.
And that's why home or away, it doesn't matter. You have to win those two games.
Have to win.
And if you do that, drop the Kentucky game, now you're looking at 7-6 and kind of the magic numbers 10s. We're trying to find 3 more wins here.
Yeah. After that Missouri game, it's a 3-game stretch. It's not going to be very fun. Two at home, 1 on the road. You got State, South Carolina comes back, and then Alabama. Thankfully, we have them here. And Alabama is just a good team. Their record, what they score, 109 on Saturday against LSU. The record is misleading on them. They're still one of the best teams in the conference, and I fully expect them to give us everything they have. Then you wrap up, I mentioned Missouri again. Then you've got Georgia in Athens and then A&M, who you've already beaten. So 10 wins is definitely still possible, right? You've got 2 games against Missouri, Georgia, A&M, but there are some definite chances for letdowns here. So it's definitely not a sure thing that the Rebels are going dancing.
No, it's not. But again, I think if we end up getting to the 10-win mark in conference, then we're going to be good. So call Missouri 2 wins, that gets you to 7. You got to go beat Georgia. That's in Athens, right? So that's on the road, but you still have to go take it. That's 8. You got to take A&M at home. You've already beat them on the road. They're going to be motivated to come in and do the exact same thing to you. And their metrics got better over the weekend with their big win at home against Tennessee, right?
Yes.
And then after that, you're looking at either stealing 1 in Starkville, which we never do, or beating either Alabama or South Carolina at home. And if you do that, that gets you to 10 and 8, and then you're dancing. You may be a little bit bubbly going into Nashville, but for the most part, I think you're locked in there. I saw this earlier today, Chad. It was Brad Logan. It was an Ole Miss reset with all the metrics in basketball. And I just thought it was interesting seeing where we stood going into this game against Kentucky. Right now we have a 57 net. You really need to be in that top 60. So we're really pushing it there. You really want to get into the top 50, 55, something like that with 10 conference wins. Feel a little more comfortable. Ken Palmer 60. But this is what people always talk about, your quad wins, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Quad 1, we're 2 and 4. Quad 2, we're 3 and 1. The thing that Ole Miss has going for them, they have 0 bad losses, 6 and 0 in quad 3, 7 and 0 in quad 7, right? So they're taking care of business where they need to take care of business at. So the game that nobody ever talks about that's really paying dividends for Ole Miss is that game down in Orlando where we beat Central Florida non-con. That's a quad 1 win right now. They're up to 66 in the net. And kind of like, the A&M, we talked about that already, getting that win. That's the other quad 1 win. But, man, you look at it, and, I mean, that Auburn game at home this past week, or not this past weekend before, where you let it slip away and then not being able to finish off South Carolina. If you get just one of those, then you're talking about being 3 and 3 in quad 1 right now. And, you're really looking a lot better than what we are now, but we're still in pretty good shape, I think. So just a phenomenal job Chris Beard has done. I thought Hitch was going to come back on. Well, maybe he is. All right, there he is. Hey, Hitch, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, we're right in the middle of talking basketball. We were actually right in the middle of the conversation about how impressed you were with Jamarian Sharp against Auburn there at the end.
No, I was not. Actually, my wife was sitting next to me when that play happened, and when it went down, I thought, "Oh my God, this isn't what I would have done, but we got exactly what we wanted apparently." And,
they did.
Yeah,
Drew up
and I jumped up and was like, "Yes." And then I just sank back down to the couch, and she was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "The kid, I don't want to take anything away from the kid that made the block. It was an incredible play. But if that's me at 7'5", there is no chance I get blocked there. I'm handing the rim back to the referee after the play, right? And Blake goes, why? And I'm go, because I ripped it off of the backboard when I dunked it on that guy. I was like, he went up just so weak. I hated it. I hated it so much.
Kind of like I talked about while you were out, though. Sharp up until that play and that little 7-8 foot jump shot he decided to take from the baseline. Outside of those two plays, he played pretty well that game, right? And that was a foul on that dunk attempt. So, but we were just kind of going over metric schedule, stuff like that, kind of the path to the NCAA tournament. I mean, do you think we're still in okay shape here?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think for sure that we are, because I mean, you still got how many games do we have left? I mean,
let's see.
What we were talking about is basically we're 5-5 in the SEC. We got to find 5 more. You play Missouri twice. You got to take those 2. You got to go win on the road in Athens.
That's what I'm interested in. What road games do we have left?
You have to
because
win
that's
in
the one we're
Columbia.
going to have to win.
Yeah, you have to win in Columbia, win in Athens, and then you have to. Then you have to beat A&M at home, and then you have to steal either a game in Starkville or beat either Alabama or South Carolina at home. And that gets you.
Yeah, I'm going to. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that after you reading off the remaining schedule, does my opinion slightly jump on the side of the fence that I'm not so sure about our tournament chances. But I still love them. I still love the chances. Yeah.
I can tell you this time last year, our chances were 0.
Exactly.
We quit watching basketball at this point.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like we're sitting here with opening day here just a few days away in Hawaii, and we're still talking about basketball. So that's a win for Chris Beard and them. We're really happy for this team. They've been a lot of fun to watch. It's appointment television. Like this Kentucky game coming up, it's an 8 o'clock tip-off. The last 2 years, I'm not making any 8 o'clock tip-offs, but now I'm thinking, all right, well, I'm going to come home, I'm going to get a nap, so I can stay up late enough, to see this thing through by 10 o'clock or whatever. Because I just can't miss a game right now. They're a lot of fun to watch. And the one Tuesday night will be really interesting. Kentucky losing 3 in a row so far at Rupp Arena. So Rebels trying to make it 4 and maybe even put a nail in the coffin of John Calipari there.
Yeah.
They're getting real tired of him this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll move on to baseball now. Like I said, opening day is less than a week away. Rebels open their season this Friday in Hawaii at 10:30 Central Time. That game, from what I understand, is on ESPN Plus, and none of the other 3 games are going to be televised after that. So at least we get one late night game that'll carry us into about 1:30, 2:30 in the morning, something like that, before it's over with. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Sleep in on Saturday, but I'm really excited about this baseball season. Obviously, I've talked a ton about it going into this year. Y'all heard that, but
who would y'all say? I'm going to just kind of throw this out there.
Yeah.
If you're looking at the roster and obviously trying to have a better season now in 24 than you did in 23, if you were to say there's an X factor, who would that X factor be on the team?
It's JT Quinn. He's a dominant Friday night starter this year.
Okay.
That's kind of where I'm at. Now, one thing we are going to do is y'all seen, if y'all follow my Twitter account or anything, Swayze Crazies at Ole Miss has done an entire scouting guide for every single player on this roster, which is really handy because we have so many new faces from the pitching staff to basically the whole damn lineup, quite frankly. So, we got some of those. Got one right here. And we are going to start giving a couple of these away per show until they're all gone. I think we'll kind of do that towards the end of the show here today. But if y'all want one of these copies, don't win one here, go to the Swayze Crazies at Ole Miss Twitter account. I think there's less than 40 hard copies left, but they're doing digital copies as well. So you can order it and just have it sent straight to your phone. You can print it out, whatever you want to do, or just have it on hand all the time. So I just got these in today. Haven't had a chance to thumb through it yet. Really excited to do that. I'll actually have Chad Smith, the guy that wrote these. Me and him are doing an interview later on tonight that will be up on the YouTube channel, Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that. So keep an eye out. I'm really excited to talk to him, see what he thinks about this baseball season. But kind of piggybacking off what you said, though, Chad, all the new faces looking for X factors. I went to division1baseball.com. They obviously do a really good job covering college baseball. And they started putting out lists of position rankings, top 150 starting pitchers, top 100 outfielders, and then top 50 on catchers, first baseman, second, all the way through. This is what I found for Ole Miss players. Luke Hill, they got him listed as number 9 shortstop in the country. The transfer from Arizona State. Everybody expecting a really big year from him. He had a really good year last year at Arizona State as a true freshman. Transfers in immediately, just takes over the shortstop position for us. He hits all fall, all preseason leading into the season here in the early spring. He's got the blonde hair now. He's dyed it. So going back to that, obviously. Hitch's man, Trayson Hughes, comes in at number 23 in the outfield rankings. And he was consistently our highest ranked transfer coming into this year. And then the show's favorite, Josh Mallett, comes in number 39 in relief pitcher. And then we have 3 top 150 starting pitchers on this team, according to D1 Baseball. And none of them's name is Xavier Rivas, who we obviously lost for the year with the Tommy John surgery, blew out his UCL, all of that. But they've got JT Quinn at number 31 in the country, and then Grayson Saunier at 137. Kyler Carmack, transfer from Arkansas State, got him at 142 overall in the country. That's a name that came up a lot when Rivas got hurt to replace him. You got him, Liam Doyle, and now we know the rotation. Gunnar Dennis and Riley Maddox are 2 guys that are going to fill in this 4-game set. And so we'll see how that ends up shaking out. And then finishing off the ranked Ole Miss players, Andrew Fisher came in number 19 at third base, and Jackson Ross, transfer from Florida Atlantic, came in number 9 at first base. So a lot of new faces, a lot of really talented faces, though, guys that can really play. Hitch, I know me and you've talked a lot about this baseball team. What is it that excites you going into opening weekend? What are you looking for? I think besides the obvious, which is how the starting rotation is going to play, which I think is going to be pretty good.
And who's your X factor, Hitch? Who's your one player, the linchpin?
So for me, I wanted to go some offensively, because I love putting up numbers. I wanted to go with somebody like Dids talked about Luke Hill, or the outfielder, Trayson Hughes. I'm sorry, I want to say Tanner. Trayson Hughes. Some of those guys transferred in, but Diz really hit it on the head with the pitching staff and Rivas' injury. So that kind of flipped me a little bit. I think the X factor is going to have to come from the pitching staff. I personally am going with Riley Maddox. I think that with him coming back off injury, him, even though he got touched up a little bit last year when he came back from the injury there towards the end of the year, I think getting those game time innings was super important for him, and I think he's going to show that this weekend. When he, I guess, like you said, he's going to be part of the rotation. So
he's
looking forward to seeing it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to see that. Yeah, but that's my X factor there.
Yeah.
So my guy is I think Campbell Smithwick is going to be very, very important catcher for those of you that aren't as familiar. With the pitching staff that struggled as much as it did last year, obviously Bianco puts a huge emphasis on the catcher position. This is a true freshman. Now, he is one of the most highest rated guys we've had coming in, but a true freshman in the SEC going to have to take control of a pitching staff that, frankly, last year didn't have a lot of stars, at least from a performance standpoint. Yeah, you get Mallett's back, who's been a stud. It's going to be interesting to watch how he handles that pitching staff, whether it's framing or blocking, because the pitching staff has to be better this year. And obviously catcher plays a huge role in that. And as a true freshman, that's a tough ask. So he's going to be the guy that I think is going to be really, really important to the Rebels' success in 24.
Yeah, and if you watched Mike Bianco's media day press conference, he was asked specifically about Campbell Smithwick, and he actually brought him up on his own in his opening statement as well. talking about him being a true freshman playing in the SEC, all the things you just talked about, Chad, handling the pitching staff, receiving, it goes so far beyond what you do at the plate with the bat in your hand, right?
Yep.
Which he is absolutely elite at. And Bianco said that he was the most talented true freshman catcher they've ever had come through their program.
And that says
They're
a lot.
that high on him. They, and Bianco talked about how hard playing catcher at Ole Miss is because Bianco, Lafferty, Clem, all those guys were catchers. They have an expectation, and all of them are looking at the same thing. You got three sets of eyes looking at that one position, knowing how it should be played, how important it is to the team. I think Campbell's going to be just another name in a long line of great catchers we've had here in Oxford.
Yeah, and I want to give an offensive one too. And it's not one of the guys that's transferred in. It's a guy last year that showed some flashes and kind of reminds me of a guy a few years ago that showed some flashes as a freshman and come in and have a big year as a sophomore. I'm going with Judd Udemark. I think he could be an absolute stud in the middle of this lineup with some protection around him. And I think he's going to be pretty big for our offense.
Yeah, that was another guy Mike had brought up. He talked about him being, the guy with the most power potential on the team, also the fastest runner on the team, a guy that can play all three outfield positions, including center if he needed to, and also play third base, first base, obviously DH. Even talked about that they had tried him out at second base, as huge as he is. But he's so athletic, he's so fast, and that's just how good of an athlete he is. But that was one guy that Mike brought up. If he can stay healthy, he has probably the biggest upside of anybody on this team. So that's definitely a good pick, somebody that you definitely need to keep an eye on. One guy that I guess offensively, since everybody's doing that, and I haven't really thrown it out there yet, I really like Will Furness this year. It's like nobody's talking about him coming into the year, right? I mean, what did Will do last year as a true freshman that has everybody cooled on him? I don't understand it. He was one of our better hitters when we got to SEC play. He started getting more and more at bats as the SEC schedule went along. I mean, I think he's in line for a huge year.
You know what it is? Like, you and I talked to him here a while back, and he comes across as, oh, I just put my britches on one leg at a time, or I just get up and carry my lunch pail to work. You know what? Like it's like, oh, well, no, that's Will Furness. Like, I expect that from him. Like, I know what he's going to do. Like, let me talk about some of these other guys. I think maybe what it is.
Yeah.
That's but you're 100% right. You're 100% right. You didn't say his name on, he's not in the top 150 of whatever, so, but give me 100% of Will Furness because he's going to hit in the middle of the lineup and he's going to have a good year.
And he's going to produce, right? And he's a guy that can be in there. Now, what's going to be interesting is, especially in these early weeks, I mean, we've been doing this for 23 years with Mike Bianco. We know what we're getting, but nobody's going to be set in stone at certain positions here to begin the year, right?
I think second base is going to be interesting. The entire season is going to be interesting, I think.
Yeah, well, again, I had players without me even bringing him up talk about Braden Randall being the guy there at second base, not to count him out. Yeah. And that's when players start doing that without you ever asking about them. That's when your ears perk up and think, hey, this kid's really gone into practice and shown something day after day after day. Andrew Fisher absolutely loves him. He just raved about him, especially defensively. Andrew talked about going and picking his brain defensively because of how smooth he is with the baseball. And then, kind of the same thing with Luke Hill. It's one of the things I absolutely love about Andrew Fisher is completely unsolicited, didn't bring it up. When I interviewed him, he went straight to Luke Hill and had his back, brought up the Willie Bloomquist comments about when he transferred out of Arizona State. And Andrew attacked that head on, talking about how great of a teammate Luke was, that he was probably his favorite on the entire team, and he does nothing but hit. No issues whatsoever with his attitude, with other people, anything like that. And Andrew just goes right at that and heads that off without anybody ever asking about it. He did it again at media days. And kind of talking about Luke, I would also like to talk about what he's got going on. himself with the Folds of Honor initiative. You can go to his website, lukehill7.com, and in the top right, click on the little drop down up there and go to the Folds of Honor and donate. It's $13 per hit for the season, $250 for a home run, $500 for the seventh home run, and $1,000 for a grand slam. It all goes to a really good cause. This is an organization where 92% of all donations go straight into giving scholarships to either spouses or children of either fallen or wounded military members. So I thought that was really cool when I saw
it's a hit-a-thon.
Yeah, that's it. Yep. And apparently that's all Luke Hill does is just stinking hit day after day after day. And the teammates really see that though. So kind of talking, we kind of hit some transfers, some of the newcomers. I think it's really important to bring up some of the returners as well. One of the more important ones, Ethan Groff out there in center field. You get an all defensive caliber center fielder back to lead this defense up the middle. That's what you always talk about with baseball. Pitchers, short, second, center, everything up the middle. If you're good up the middle, you're usually going to be a good defense. And the thing that does, it allows you to push Trayson Hughes to right field. And now you have so much range out there to run down balls with those two guys out there. I think Ethan's going to have a huge year. He's seen SEC pitching for an entire year now, and now he's coming back for his last year.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that started out really like red hot last year and seemed to have cooled as the year went on. It maybe, like you're saying, SEC pitching, got more film on him, got whatever, but like he's had a year under his belt now. He can now make those counter adjustments and hopefully take that hot start all the way through the year. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does here.
Looking back at last year, there were a lot of we talked about Will Furness and the amount of experience he got last year. There were some other freshmen that I'm really interested in seeing to see how they transfer or transition into their sophomore year. Grayson Saunier, I think he got so much talent. He couldn't piece it all together for the entire season. There were flashes of brilliance. I'm really interested to see what Sam Tukoyan looks like.
Me too.
Coming out of the bullpen, he threw a lot of important innings last year, and I think that's going to be really important for. He's not going to be as phased, and not to say that he was phased last year, but stepping in a big game experience, that's not going to be anything for him because he did it last year. Obviously, they weren't as successful as they wanted to be last year, but we're really going to get a test to see how well experience does for younger players, especially in a league in the SEC, like the SEC. And those two pitchers, I think, are going to be really, really important to getting the 2023 season out of our mouth.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback off what you're talking about there, Chad, especially bringing up Tukoyan, we had other freshmen in the bullpen that pitched really important innings for us last year. Braden Jones, who really flashed in midweeks, non-con, stuff like that. Out of necessity, it reminds me a lot of Josh Mallett's and the path that he took. That's kind of what he did as a freshman. But we had to have somebody to get when we got into SEC play, and he was kind of thrown to the wolves just like Josh was. CJ Ketchum's another guy that I thought pitched really, really well at times as a freshman for us. And, those two guys are back in a bullpen with Mallett's, and now you got Doyle and Carmack and Takui, and like you're talking about. And, if Riley Maddox ends up sticking in the starting rotation, well, that's fine because you've got the Doyles and Carmacks and those guys. Connor Spencer is a transfer that came in. He's a short reliever who has been absolutely mowing folks down ever since he got on campus. He had, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it was something like 70-something strikeouts in 39 innings at his last stop. So another really experienced guy. We've got arms as well. The bullpen's going to be a real weapon for us. One we haven't had in a long time, and one that Yanko can really, really use to his benefit.
And a name that we haven't brought up that I'm interested in is Mason Nichols, right? Because he had that big freshman year. Well, I mean, you want to talk about pitching meaningful innings as a freshman, like that kid came out and dealt. I don't have his numbers in front of me. I got to look them up for the show. I forgot. Sorry, or I didn't think about it. But it felt like he didn't have a great year last year. The sophomore slump, I guess you want to call it. I'm interested in seeing, just like we talked about with Groff, right? Now, just on a little bit of a different angle, it's Groff had that experience seeing the pitchers from the SEC. Now Mason Nichols has 2 whole years, and also not even an experience of seeing SEC hitters, but 2 years of growth, 2 years of strength, right? Like this junior year for him, I think, could be really special at the back end of this bullpen.
Yeah, and 2 years of completely different results.
Yeah.
Too, right? His freshman year. Now, I think the big thing last year is we had so little depth in the bullpen that we had to keep Gilman, Mitch Morrell. They pitched so many innings out of the bullpen, so many back-to-backs, just because we had to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the team had too many walks. That was the control issues of the staff were. Yeah, were you about to say that, Hitch? That's he's smart. Yeah.
No, I just know how much we talked about that last year. Like,
God bless.
Yeah, and kind of talking about that, Chad. I don't think we've talked since I've learned this, but up on the jumbotron at Swayze when they're doing inter squads and stuff like that, how they usually have the radar gun.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Bianco did away with that. No more radar gun. He's got the strike zone up there from Stat Tracker. He puts that up there. That way they track every single pitch. The pitcher, hitter, whoever can look up there and see where that thing was at. Because that's what these SEC umpires are graded on. That's what Mallett's talked about, was that's what the SEC umpires are going by. And it actually tightens up even more than what that stat tracker is, because they don't want to be wrong, right? And that's what they've hammered home all off season, was get it in the zone according to this. Don't worry about your velocity, take it off the board, stat tracker up there. I think it was maybe it was Ethan Groff or somebody at Media Day talked about somebody had thrown a pitch in an inner squad that previous weekend, and he took it, knew for 100% it was a ball. Umpire called him out. He was pissed about it, obviously, and looked up, and sure enough, it caught right at the edge of the stat tracker, a strike zone there. So I think it's going to help both hitters and pitchers when you go up there. You know what you're looking for, and I wouldn't think a whole lot of teams are doing that. They're probably doing it the more traditional way, but to y'all's point about the walks, I think that's why this came into play this year, because if there's one sure shit way for Mike Bianco not to put you in the game, come in and start walking folks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they had to address it some way, because obviously what they did last year didn't work.
Yeah.
So doing something like that, I'm very interested to see how that looks, because it was tough to watch several games last year.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like it was guys that weren't afraid to throw a breaking ball in a full count. Like, it was guys that weren't close for 12 pitches.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So that's what kind of kept me going all year, was all these young pitchers we were talking about. Though I wanted to watch every start from Quinn, every start from Saunier. I wanted to see Ketchum and Jones and Takuian and those guys come in, because, again, we've been through this with Bianco enough. We know that year 1 to year 2 jump with talented freshmen that pitch meaningful innings, it's every single time he has it, damn near, they're going to make this huge jump. And we've got a ton of them this year. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch this pitching staff grow and these players grow themselves as the year goes on. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait to get it started.
One thing I'll add real quick is looking at their schedule. Obviously, no schedule in the SEC is going to be easy per se, but they did miss 2 good teams out of the East, right? You talking Vanderbilt and Florida. They played Tennessee, who's I want to say preseason rated 3rd, projected order of finish, and then you had Florida and Vanderbilt 1 and 2.
They got some of them.
Yeah. Tracy Hughes does it.
If you can miss 2 teams, those are 2 teams that are not bad to miss. So they lucked out on that.
I would actually say they're good to miss, Chad.
That's that's a fair point, Anthony. I'm glad you said it that way.
That's right.
I'm going to be positive.
Really put it into place there.
I appreciate that, Hitch. So, all right, guys, kind of what we're going to do to end this show, though. Kind of like I said, we've got these scouting guides here. I've got a few extra we're going to give away on this particular show. we're going to do a Mount Rushmore of Ole Miss baseball. What kind of gave me the idea? The guy that runs the Swayze Crazies account on Monday morning put out a "What's your baseball Mount Rushmore?" and I talked to Hitch and them. Thought this would be really fun for us to do on the show when we record later on. So it's player or coach. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be all player. It doesn't all have to be from one era. And Hitch brought up a fun thing. Maybe we do this draft style, kind of snake, right? So we'll
all right. So real quick, does that mean that we cannot have none of us can have the same people on our Mount Rushmore?
Correct. So altogether,
not good enough.
Altogether, there will be 12 names listed here. So 4 from each one of us. And for 2 people that list theirs in the comments, we'll look through those. Whichever ones we like the best, we'll pick out 2. And we'll get in touch with you, and we will send you one of these scouting guides for free. Like I said, it goes through every single player on the roster. It's the hard copy, so you can take it to games, get the players to sign on their pages with their scouting reports. It has current and future MLB projections, just on a 20 to 80 scale, just like the Major League Scouts do. So it's a really cool book, and it's a really good way to get to learn all of these new rebels. So but we'll go ahead and get this thing started, and I'm going to take the free space here on the Mount Rushmore. I'm taking Mike Bianco right off the bat.
How any reasoning why you're taking Mike Bianco?
Because without him, there is no Ole Miss baseball. I mean, he's the greatest to ever do it, second in the SEC in wins right now. Hopefully, he hangs around long enough to knock off Ron Polk and kind of shove a Bulldog further down the list and shoot a Rebel a little bit higher. So, yeah, Mike's the best of all time. I'll argue until I die. So I'm taking Mike number 1 overall. So you're up, Chad.
Yeah. So I was thinking of my Mount Rushmore. Obviously, Bianco was number 1 on there.
Yeah.
He was a no doubter. The only other no doubter for me would be Tim Elko, right? They're putting up a statue for him. The only national championship the program has won. He was a big factor, and just the lore of playing the previous season with a torn ACL. He's got everything that you could want, at least narrative-wise and accomplishment-wise. And he's I saw where he's going to be in spring training for the White Sox this year. Yeah. So it's Bianco and Tim Elko are 1A and 1B in terms of lore for Ole Miss baseball. So sorry, Hitch.
Well, no, that's okay. He's
actually in a good spot. He gets 2 back-to-back right here.
And you're the one that came up with this draft idea, so
right. Well, coming into this, I decided that if there were 2 no doubters for me, because I thought y'all were too dumb, and I didn't think y'all would think of Bianco. I thought I could get him later. But did ruined it by saying player and coach. Anyway, then I thought there's 2 guys for me. If I don't get either one of those guys, I'm just going to go crazy. So with my first pick on the Mount Rushmore Hall of Fame, I want TJ McCants because what he did in that Maryland game. This is my personal.
Yep, it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah.
All right. So now we'll go back to. He may not be on everybody's Hall of Fame or Mount Rushmore, right? Give me Dylan DeLucia.
Yeah, he was one that I thought of earlier when I put mine out on Twitter, responding to it. He was one of my honorable mentions.
Yeah, because he had the big, year, the national championship.
With DeLucia, there are 3 names in Ole Miss history that you knew when they went out onto the mound, you were winning the game. It was Drew Pomeranz, Doug Nikhazy, and Dylan DeLucia. Was there ever a doubt in either of y'all's minds when those 3 guys pitched that we were winning?
Stop saying picks.
Right? I mean, look, I can go ahead and tell you if Nikhazy and Pomeranz aren't taken by the time it gets back to me, they'll be taken by the time it gets back to Chad.
Nikhazy was the other one. It was Elko and Nikhazy for me, right?
Yeah.
And they were so much fun.
Yeah. So a lot of the criteria that I went into is not necessarily from an accolades perspective, even though the guy I'm about to give had some big accolades. It was more personal, like who I cared about the most. So Drew Pomeranz was one of mine, right? The only Ole Miss pitcher that's ever won SEC Pitcher of the Year. I still think he's the program leader in strikeouts. He had a 20-win season. He he was just dominant. Like you said, when he got on the mound, it's like, okay, we got this game. He's our Friday night starter. We just got to worry about winning one on Saturday or Sunday. And that's a real good feeling to have. So yeah, Pomeranz was a pretty easy pick for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you go back to his postseason success too, right?
Yep.
I mean, he was one of the pillars of what Ole Miss baseball has become. But Chad, he was not the original pillar. There was one All-American before him that raised this baseball program up to new heights, and that was first baseman and closing pitcher Stephen Head.
He was my other guy.
I mean, he was an absolute stud for us, right? It didn't matter at the plate, on the mound. You knew Stephen Head was going to show up every single day. Quite frankly, I can't believe that he wasn't an absolute superstar in the bigs.
I know.
Yeah,
he was Stephen Head here.
Yeah, so when we were talking about this, and I started thinking, who would I want on my Mount Rushmore? Who would be there because of personal things to me? He was the first guy that I thought about because, and I don't know if I'm say this the right way, but I hope you get what I'm saying. He was my introduction to Ole Miss baseball.
He put us on the map. He put it on the map.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And he was one of the pillars of the entire program.
And so he was the guy that it was like, you want to go to the Ole Miss baseball game, whoever I was hanging out with is like, yeah, let's go watch Head play, it's gonna be fun. Right. And so that's why he would be on my Mount Rushmore, kind of the same as you guys. It sounds like since we're all the same age, it might be the same reason, but
yeah. So I've actually got another pick, don't
I? It's your pick.
Let me see. Again. Yeah, so after Head, I'll go ahead and take Nikhazy here. Again, we've already talked about him, but especially that last year in Oxford, I literally don't think he lost a game he started. He was that good. He was an absolute just menace on the mound. Every time you took it, he was taking it and he was shoving it, and the Rebels walking away with the win. Then you had to, and that was the year that really stung with the Gunnar Hoagland injury because you had him and Nikhazy 1-2 punch, and man, they were absolutely nasty. So give me Nikhazy. He's one of my favorite of all time. So I'll go ahead and take him here.
Yeah. Zach Cozart is going to be on my list. Now, full disclosure, I had Bianco in Head rounding out my 4. But Zach Cozart actually, I'm going to change that. This is the other guy, Chris Coughlin. I'm going to take Chris Coughlin as, Rookie of the Year for the Florida Marlins. He was on I'm a Cubs fan. He was on the World Series winning Chicago Cubs back in 2016. I had the privilege of interviewing him a few months ago. Cool guy, great guy. Really loves the program, loves Ole Miss, loves Mike Bianco. So yeah, give me Chris Coughlin as my number 3.
Yeah, he was one of the guys that showed up and gave that powerful speech when we right before we swept Missouri that kind of let the Rebels get hot to go on that incredible run to get us to the postseason. Mike called up Coughlin. Coughlin come in, had this incredible speech to motivate the guys, and they never looked back. You go and sweep Missouri, sweep LSU, 2 out of 3 against A&M, or A&M take 2 out of 3 from us, and then we lost to Vanderbilt. But we sneak into the tournament, and the rest is history. So, yeah, Coughlin, absolute stud.
All right. I want 2006 Mark Wright.
My man. Yes. My man.
Specifically 2006 Mark Wright.
Yeah. Dude,
I don't even because I gave the year, I don't even have to tell you why.
Yep.
And my last pick, Give me Mike Myers, but in the Halloween mask.
Obviously.
Okay.
Have to have that.
Yeah. All right. So my last guy, I'm gonna go Thomas Dillard.
Oh, okay. So
I gave this one some real consideration.
Bomb dropper, right? It was he. Like I said, I'm having to kind of adjust on the fly here.
Yeah.
But Thomas Dillard. Other than, and his name is escaping me from last year, few people have hit the ball harder.
Kemp
few people have hit the ball harder than Thomas Dillard in this program. Kemp Alderman being one of them, but yeah,
he the only one.
Yeah, he hit the ball hard. He got you fired up. Sykes Orvis is another guy.
Man. Yeah.
If if Kemp Alderman had Thomas Dillard's like charisma, right? I don't know if this program could have held that player, right?
Thomas
Because
Dillard's
it would have
grand
been so much
slam
fun.
against his grand slam against
Yeah.
LSU in Oxford in the Powder Blues. That I think it was actually a Saturday. I think it was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series we played that year. I've never seen Swayze field like that in my life than when he tattooed that ball. I mean, and he had it had to go over the student section.
Yeah.
He absolutely crushed the ball. So Thomas Dillard is a good one. And Chad, since you did that, you really put me in a pickle here because you're leaving Zach Cozart out there, and that's
take him.
It's not something I'm real comfortable with. Is him not getting drafted in a 3-person Mount Rushmore here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will go ahead and take Cozart.
Okay.
He is another one, kind of like Stephen Head, one of the guys that is one of the main pillars from the early Bianco years. He was after Head and Petway and Wright and all them. Obviously, well, I think he played with Head and Wright and Petway there at the end of their careers. He was a freshman. First freshman shortstop started Ole Miss, if I'm not mistaken, was Zach Cozart. Obviously had an incredible career. Went on to the majors, played with the Reds and the Mariners. Had a couple of good years with the Reds there. Cozart was just one of those early building blocks for Bianco that really got this program up and running. And Cozart was kind of the start of shortstop U for us too, right? After that, it was dude after dude after dude after dude that come in and followed him and just kind of kept up the legacy of the great shortstops. Just kind of looking at these lists, some guys that obviously have been left off. You know, you have the great Don Kessinger, right?
Yeah.
One of the most, and you being a Cubs fan, you should be plumb ashamed.
Yeah. Now, the reason why I didn't choose Don Kessinger, because obviously he's one of the greats, is he had no personal effect to me. It's like if we were doing football, I would not pick Archie Manning because, like, for my dad, he was the guy, right? Archie Manning was the guy that he fell up. I don't have that same connection to Archie Manning, even though I recognize how great he was for the university and the program. That's kind of how Don Kessinger is for me. I never got to experience that, so I don't have that nostalgia that I do for some of these other guys that I mentioned.
Well, the first name I've got written down under Bianco is Brad Henderson, right? The all-time hits leader, right? How does he not make it on the
Well, I mean, him, and you've got David DeLucci, who had a really good year or career, goes on to the
Lance Lynn,
the next one I was bringing up. He was an absolute dude on the mound. You know, there's a ton of pitchers. Yeah, Gray Kessinger, but
JB Woodman.
Of pitchers. Yeah, JB Woodman. Austin Bosfield was one hell of a center fielder for us back then, too. You know, he's another great player. Anthony Servideo, Tyler Keenan. If it wasn't for COVID shutting down baseball that year, those two guys were both having Golden Spikes Player of the Year type years before.
And don't forget Rollison. Don't forget Will Klein. That changeup from Will Klein is still one of the dirtiest things I've ever seen.
Seth Smith dropped all the bombs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of great players obviously have come through. Obviously pre-Bianco, but a lot since Bianco has gotten here. He's taken this program to the next level. We've had dudes in and out, you know, that have dominated in the SEC, gone on to the majors, had good careers themselves. Lance Lynn probably the biggest omission, because if you take into account how good his pro career has been on top of how good he was back when he was at Ole Miss, that was one of my honorable mentions I had as well, though. So, a lot of great players. But really excited to get this season going to see the next crop of players, because this is a young team, a new team. Even guys that aren't freshmen are still new to us, right? So ready to see these guys play, how this season plays out. Everybody get your naps on Friday, 10:30 first pitch. Tune in on ESPN Plus. Remember, leave a comment down here with your Mount Rushmore for Ole Miss baseball, player, coach, doesn't matter the era. We'll go through those. We'll tweet out the link, obviously. You can respond into the Twitter account, too, if you want to do it that way. But, you know, we're trying to get a little bit more interaction. Got these guides. I think y'all really like it if y'all haven't gotten them yet to look through them. So, you know, just like every week, though, I really appreciate Chad and Hitch taking time out. I kind of looked up and can't believe we've been going for almost an hour now. You know, we get on baseball, that shit just starts rolling, dude. You know, we can talk about so many positions, so many players. all day long. And I'm really excited. We're about to get the opportunity to do that again. So
I'm ready to watch it.
Yeah, me too. So guys, appreciate y'all joining me. We'll obviously pick up again next week. See what happened in basketball with the game at Rupp Arena. And then what's the next one, Chad? Missouri at home after that? Is that what we said? So, 1-1 is an absolute must. Now, you get that one Tuesday, you got to go 2-0. But then we'll kind of recap what's going on with Ole Miss after a 4-game series in Hawaii. Depending when we end up recording next week, we may have already played Arkansas State in the midweek on Tuesday night. So we'll just kind of see how that ends up going. But we'll get together. We'll have all that stuff covered for y'all. And remember to get your Swayze Crazy Scouting Guide. There's a lot of really good information in there. And just go ahead and comment, and I can get a couple of them sent out real quick. So, Chad, Hitch, appreciate you guys, and we'll hold
Yes, sir. All right,
guys.
see y'all.
All right, Toddy.